What is up, Rad Potential YouTube? I'm Mr. Rad, and let's go on a journey to where all of this rotary car madness started, ultimately culminating in the fact that I bought an FD RX7, something I never expected to be making a video about to share with you guys. So the FD RX7 holds a special place in my heart, not so much as a car that I dreamed or aspired to own, but as a car that has always remained a symbol of what car culture has meant to me. I can remember as a little kid going over to my Aunt Betty's house and watching Fast and Furious 1 on a VHS tape in their living room whenever I was probably way too young to actually watch that movie. And in that movie, the opening scene, Dominic Toretto's got his red FD RX7 with the sneaky nitrous under the seat, and he's getting ready to just take down every unsuspecting piston car lover. But at the very beginning of that scene, where the camera goes through the engine of that RX-7, you see the rotors turn, the gears in the transmission, ultimately you go flying out the exhaust as flames and tear off down a public road in LA. But that scene, the rotors, has always intrigued me about why was the FD RX-7 different. So throughout my younger years, I aspired to figure that out, and I learned about rotary engines, ultimately culminating in buying a 1980 Mazda RX-7, because looking for RX-7s, these cars have gotten really expensive, and even 10 years ago, FD RX-7s were a little bit out of my reach, and I didn't know enough about them to dive off into that money pit of unreliability. So I started with a very simple RX-7. From there, I met every single person I could that owned an RX-7, whether it was an FC, an FD, an RX-8, eventually, all of the rotary cars, the rotary engine was my thing, and I had the opportunity to drive many FD RX-7s throughout my journey, including this one right here that I'm currently working on for one of my friends, in addition to a 4-rotor FD RX-7 that I built for one of my friends, LS swapped FD RX-7s, stock twins RX-7s, non-sequential twins RX-7s, big single turbo RX-7s. I've kind of driven every version of an FD RX-7 that you can pretty much build, and ultimately, I've just never had them tickle my fancy as such a magical experience that I needed to personally own one. I've just enjoyed playing with all of my friends' FD RX-7s up to this point. However, I love what the FD RX-7 has always meaned to me, which is it's a symbol of what the car scene is about. Somebody who has some unique, cool, weird, and obscure car comes out to a car show and ultimately talks to so many people to share their love and passion for their own car with all these people, which inevitably brings everybody at the show together, and we get to meet new friends and ultimately just be inspired every day to go out and break the status quo, build something that is unique, different, cool, and that the owner of the car loves, regardless of if they had somebody else built it themselves by hand. Respect the passion that somebody has for their car. And that entire journey has led me to buy literally the world's worst RX-7 FD, but it's the best RX-7 FD for Mr. Rad. So without further ado, I'm going to open up the door, fire this thing up, and bring it in here and show it to you guys. Just wait till y'all hear this rotary fire right up. First try. Unlike any other FD RX-7 you've ever seen. So this is my 1993 Mazda RX-7 FD. It's an R1, clean title. However, it has been in a slight altercation with some other vehicle. As you can tell, she's a little rough. This is basically the minimum amount of parts that you need to own to say that you own an FD RX-7, which is why it fits perfectly in at the Radworks shop, because I don't particularly care for a lot of the parts that make an FD RX-7 an FD RX-7, like the whole door panel falling off whenever you close the door, or the fact that like you have to treat the dash like it's made of the most fragile movie set glass ever. You breathe on it wrong, it cracks. $500 gauge surround. So we have none of those parts on this car, but we have what we need to build something that's super cool. So I've sourced a set of front fenders. I've got a front bumper now. I still need doors and a rear hatch. So hopefully maybe one of you guys has some like doors that would fit in with this build. I'm not talking pristine. They don't even have to be red. It will be red because, you know, I've just loved the Fast and Furious 1 FD RX7 for so long. It's one of those cars I can just remember that exact moment I mentioned before as a kid, seeing that with like the jetpack guy on the side. I'd always wanted to recreate that car in my head. And ultimately, in Fast and Furious 1, it doesn't even sound like a rotary. So it will always be a rotary in my FD RX7, I can promise you that. But it might not be the one you'll expect. Anyways, help me find some parts to finish this thing. What I don't need though, what I don't need is a dash. I don't need an interior. I don't need seats. I don't need subframes. I don't ultimately need like suspension. I don't ultimately need an FD RX7 engine because we're not going to put an FD RX7 engine in this. It will be a rotary, but not an FD rotary. And yeah, this is about to be the most custom FD RX7 build that you guys have ever seen. So you're definitely going to want to subscribe to check it out. But before I walk y'all around the car to show it to you in grave detail, let's take a trip to the frame machine with Calvin to get this thing straight enough that I could actually hang a fender and a front bumper on this deal. And I just go pick it up and smash my roof in.
No, just through the door open.
You're gonna bend this.
I don't think we're gonna bend it any more than what it's already bent.
But the other side's perfect.
I don't think we'll mess it up.
I don't want to risk messing it up more. Why don't you just pick it up from the front or from the side? I mean, we can like cock it over and get underneath it.
Yeah.
It's not that heavy.
No?
No.
Oh.
I'm telling you. This thing's probably 600 pounds. You know what I mean? Like you and I, we could probably carry it.
Yeah. How heavy is the back of it?
Maybe a little heavier than the front, but like it's not that heavy.
Yeah, that's lighter than I anticipated.
Yeah. I mean, you want to put another block under the back too, and then you just go right under?
Yeah, just grab that cinder block.
Okay. Strongman Calvin can lift the whole car. You would never believe it. Alright, you're good. So this is my FD RX7, guys. It's a 10-second car. We could carry it across the finish line in maybe 10 minutes. Race car. The best way to put a car on a frame rack.
We're gonna find out.
Forklift certified Calvin. You might have to do one of those like spinner turns to get yourself in there.
It's just a little far off.
A little bit off. Don't need that anymore. So we're making really good progress. We just actually watched Rob Dahm successfully get to the top of Pikes Peak. So huge shout out to Rob Dahm making it up Pikes Peak this year. Maybe this thing could go up Pikes Peak someday, but we got a lot of straightening to do. We've pulled the bottom of the rocker out, and now we're wanting to pull the door A-pillar here where the hinges go. We want to tip it forward. So Calvin can kind of explain what we're looking at.
All this up here is all buckled in real bad. So the plan, I think, is going to be, I'm going to try and clamp onto this and pull to straighten the inside of the floor. But then I want to try and figure out, it's all just kind of too mangled. So I'm trying to straighten to find another place to grab. But if I can get some of this to start to come out so that I can start trying to straighten some of that, and then that'll like tip all that back forward. But then hopefully by pulling on this, it kind of pulls some of this out of it because it's got a lot of pressure in it right now. So we'll see. So
one of the things that's crazy about watching a frame rack or even Calvin, just the body guy, work is it's not so much about just grabbing and yanking it straight, because if you pull it straight when you let go, it's going to go back to some extent. So you'll see we've been hammering. When you put pressure on it and then start to hammer it, every time he hits it with the hammer, you can see it just move. and he's not hitting it very hard, but the metal wants to be back to where it was initially stamped. We just have to assist it to get there. So it's kind of a, like, going to the chiropractor for a car, you know?
Pull and tap and pull and tap and pull and tap and then reassess the situation and see where to pull and tap next. So,
and ultimately, the goal here isn't, obviously we just sectioned off the entirety of like a whole front strut tower and the frame rail is mangled and everything's torched. The goal is to get it to where from the firewall back, I can fit an FD door and I can get a windshield on it. That's the biggest goal. If we can make that happen, then we can use this chassis, tube frame the front, do something. The back's honestly not that bad, so do something with the back. But as long as I can get a door to fit, fenders and stuff are easy to make fit. We can make that work. We can build a tube chassis. But
yeah, we'll build a tube front end for it.
But. Yeah, but this old getting T-boned right here in the front of your door thing, I wouldn't recommend that. No. Not in an FD. Really,
no, it
not
looks
in
like
any
it
car.
Moved a lot.
Yeah, I mean, it buckled all the way up to the top in the roof. So,
yeah.
You know, 100% people would have just written this car off. I think, you know, if it was my own car, we probably would have. But it's an FD. We got to try to save it a little bit and
see what we can do with
it. It doesn't have to be perfectly straight, but like I said, we need to fit a door.
Yeah.
If a door fits, we're good. Even if I have to like super glue a windshield in and it's not perfect, we'll make it happen.
Hopefully, we don't have to resort to that. Hopefully, it actually fits, but...
I mean, it might have more glue on one side than the other when we put it in, but that's fine, you know? Close enough. It's like a fender arch now. We know that this hole right here used to be a rectangle. So once we get that one back to a rectangle, we'll know we're in the right spot. I mean, there's a lot of movement to happen there. Ooh. That like pushed itself pretty straight up there.
Yeah.
The drip rail is getting straighter.
Because it's pulling this buckle out too. That was pretty creased.
Oh yeah, it is. It's pulling that whole roof back. Sick. This is like Attila the Hun for cars right here. Dude, too bad we don't have a door. We can go steal the door off of Richard's car.
Yeah.
Dang, dude, this thing looks mint now. Never been wrecked. One owner, 50,000 miles. What do you think?
It's still moving. It's still popping and cracking.
Okay, down. Woo. It looks like an FD RX7 now. We got taillights. All right, guys, so as you saw from the frame rack, this thing is a nightmare. It got T-boned by a much larger vehicle, approximately right behind this fender. So you all saw all the damage. It pushed the bottom of the windshield in. It moved the base of the A-pillar in. It crunched up the floor and made a ginormous mess of everything up in here. We took this thing and got it to where a door fits on it now, or at least it measures the same as that one, that a door will fit. So if a door will fit, then that means that I can at a minimum put a Lexan windshield in this car and then make it a complete car. Because the front half of a vehicle, we all know, a race car driver, a drifter, a rally car driver, that has crashed their car and front halved their car and just basically cut everything off and tube fronted the front of their car. So I don't plan on doing that specifically, but this whole entire front of the car is going to get completely chopped off, and we're going to be grafting on another, piece of the car. So ultimately, I'm not going to tell you what I paid for this, but I'll just say it did come with this front bumper. So we have a 93 spec front bumper, and hot take, I personally think the 93 spec front bumper looks way better than the 99 spec front bumper. But that's just my opinion, because I'm the guy that likes the Fast and Furious 1 FD, not the Veilslide FD from Tokyo Drift, which is also super cool. And there's no such thing as disliking an FD RX7. I just like certain parts of them better, right? So we do have a crash bar. I've got license plate lights. My buddy Johnny gave me a set of 93 spec tail lights, which is mint. These are super nice. A little bit, busted up, but that's fine. It'll fit perfectly. This quarter, rear quarter, good. Roof, semi-good on the driver's side of the car. The impact happened over there. These fenders had some sort of weird over fender on them, which that one still does. And ultimately, this frame rail is kinked. And let me go grab the other frame rail. I'm just carrying my frame rail in here to show you. So, this all was affixed / crunched in here. We cut all that off on the frame rack so that we had better access to get the nose of this frame horn straight. This side we really didn't do any pulling on. We were mostly focused on basically sending this FD to the chiropractor because she had some rough spots. And we still do have some rough spots. So you can see the rocker here is a little crunched. This was kind of kicked in. This part here was buckled under. Buckled right there. You can actually see where they braze the two pieces of metal together. So the roof skin and the quarter skin right there. Interesting. A little bit of rust coming in here, no big deal. The floor was ultimately something too I wasn't that worried about, but we got it mostly situated, so that's a win. Firewall can be cut out and replaced if we needed to do a flat firewall. We could be, super Camaro muscle car guy and smooth the firewall off, make it look super hot and sexy up here. But I think this whole vicinity is probably going to get chopped out and redone whenever I cut the frame horn off, basically back in there. So what it looks like though is that I have my work completely cut out for me when it comes to putting this car back together. None of y'all can be super mad whenever I jump in here with a sawzall and start chopping this thing up, because ultimately this was destined to just get chopped up to save other FD's lives. But I'm going to save this FD and make it something super cool. So drop in the comments below what you think I'm going to do to it. If you've watched other videos on the channel, you've seen another chassis that I bought that's mostly complete with parts that this one lacks. If you've also watched the channel enough, you know that I have a pretty good passion for Mazda RX-8s. I typically don't like the way the FD RX-7s drive and handle. They're like a very, very, very sharp knife, and you really, really have to be on your toes to make sure that you don't over dice up the road, because this car will get you in trouble. An FD RX-7, it's a fine line between cruisy, spirited drive, then you want to push the limits. At the limits, it's a sharp, crisp cliff you fall off of if you overdrive one of these cars. So I've never quite loved that about the FD. I have an idea of what I'm going to do with it. I want to see if you guys can guess it in the comments below. I'm excited to go on this journey. I'm finishing up the yellow Turbo RX-8 as we speak. The RX7 is ripping and shredding, and I cannot wait to get that off the lift so I can put this on the lift and really surprise you guys with what's going in that thing. So with that, thank you guys so much for watching. I would love it if you guys subscribe to the channel. I want to give a huge thank you to all of the Patreon members. Without them, none of this would be possible. If you're interested in checking out the Patreon, it's basically Rad Solutions. It's access to my brain. If you have problems with your RX7, RX8, or you want to build a crazy rotary engine and you have questions about it, become a member of Rad Solutions. You can cancel it after a month. Ask me all the questions you need. I make videos to answer the questions. Ultimately, I hope the guy in Germany fixes FD-RX7 for the cost of 1 month of a Patreon membership. Something super simple like that. If it would help you, I'm trying to give back to you guys. That's the most effective way for me to do it. So with that, keep it rad. We will see you guys in the next video. And remember, build a life that you don't need a vacation from. Peace, guys. I'm telling y'all, move these boards out of the way. I can see it right now. I'm gonna be sitting in here. Ideally not on a wagon. Right here. There's gonna be a super sick steering wheel right here. A nice looking dash. Improved center stack radio and everything. None of that FD-RX7 crap. An RX8 6-speed right here because it's the best transmission for a rotary engine ever unless you're making like 7,000 horsepower. And ultimately, a super rad street car. Peace, guys.